about who you think should or might replace him, how tough was it for Jesse Marsh coming in? And I have to say this, sometimes an American manager, we've only had a couple in the Premier League, they get quite a tough time when they come here. And was it really tough, following such a legend for Leeds such as Bielsa?
It's only tough if you've not really done your job. As simple as that. If you went to America and did a good job, you'd be absolutely fine. No one would. People wouldn't mind if you were French, you were English, you were Australian. It really wouldn't make any difference. If you're not very good at your job.
Oh, welcome guys. I'm just getting everything ready, and then we'll be off and running.
Oh, welcome guys. I'm just getting everything ready.
So this is hang on 1 second. You know when you're getting old when you don't even know what the date is. Right, there you go. So it's February 6th, 2023. We are just over just over 2 months until the anniversary of the Titanic, which will be the 112th. Yeah, I think so. I'm just trying to work. Hang on, no. I sound like an idiot, don't I? I can't even remember. 2012 was 100 years. 2022 was 110 years. So 111 years. There we go. We got there eventually. So we're getting closer and closer to that. I weren't due to go live until February 10th. But I thought as I'm free, I've got free time, I might as well go live. So we're getting closer and closer to the anniversary. I enjoy the anniversary every year. I normally watch Titanic, Honor and Glory on YouTube. They're absolutely fantastic. So if you don't watch them or subscribe to them, I hugely recommend that you go and watch them, because they're absolutely brilliant and all their work that they do. They have social media accounts as well. A lot of you probably already know about them because they're so big. But for you guys who don't know about them, check them out because they're brilliant. So yeah, we're getting closer and closer to the anniversary of the Titanic. A lot of people don't start doing it until late March, early April. The Titanic was what started to get me interested in ships. And I was a young age when the film came out. The film, I think I'm right when I say 1997. Now, if I am correct, I was 6 years old at the time. And I've still got the book of memories that I got when I was that age. Now, it's very old, this book now. It has the creases of being old. But it's kept away. I've got another book that came out with the picture of the front of the ship with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet at the front. So I've had that for quite a while as well. There is another book that I want to get, which I've heard is absolutely amazing. I can't particularly remember what it is called. Well, I got told about it. So yeah, that's another book. I have heard that the film is going into theatres February of this year in 4D, I'm pretty sure. So that'll be really, really good. I might actually see it in 4D, I don't know yet, but I know it is in February that it is coming out, so that's really, really good. But yeah, I've done obviously this year. I did a live stream on YouTube of the Titanic's sister ship, the TITANIC. I haven't done one of the Olympic because there's not much to do with the Olympic. There's a big story to be told that it ran its service for 30 plus years, referred to as the Old Reliable, but where they actually thought that it might be the ship that sinks, and it was actually the ship that never did. It was the most reliable ship that they had, even though it had a collision with another ship. It still didn't sink, unlike the Titanic and the Britannic. The difference with the Britannic is it went over a mine and then sunk. With the Titanic, we all know it hit an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on April 14th. So for a long time, I actually thought that the Titanic sank on April 14th, but in theory it didn't. It sunk early hours in the morning of April 15th. So people do ask me if the circumstances were the same and what happened to the Britannic happened to the Titanic. Would the Titanic have lasted as long as the Britannic did, or as long as the Titanic did? The answer to that I think everybody who talks about the Titanic and the Britannic, or the Titanic in particular, it's all theories that we go by, apart from people who actually know, because they're accountable witnesses that were there that night. So you can't really argue with what they're saying. But I personally think that if what happened to the Britannic happened to the Titanic, she wouldn't have lasted 2.5 hours. Obviously the Britannic was trying to move towards the island of Kea, and they're in the Mediterranean, where the Titanic was obviously in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. That's probably another reason why the Titanic is in the condition that she's in, and the Britannic is in the big condition that she's in. Obviously, the Britannic sank, as far as I'm aware, in 400 feet of water, where the Titanic sank in 2,000 feet of water. So there's a big difference. With 400 feet of water, the sunlight is still hitting the ship. With 2,000 feet, there is no light at all. It's just pure darkness. And the fact that the Titanic has stayed at the bottom of the ocean that long, well, the front of the ship anyway, so the bow, in my opinion, is absolutely amazing that it's lasted that long. It just shows how strong that ship was. Now, I have seen videos on YouTube and things like that by people that I do subscribe to. I'm not going to say any names. What would have happened to the Titanic if it had direct impact with the iceberg? No, we don't know. No officer or captain would, give advice or go under the instructions to go full on with an iceberg. As far as I'm aware, I know it has happened, but the fact that the Titanic had over 2,000 lives on board, it is just very unlikely. Would the Titanic have survived if there was a direct impact? I don't know. I personally don't think it would have. 1 second.
More of the latest blockbusters this February on Sky Cinema. Every point is crucial in the championship as Blackburn face Wigan under the lights at Ewood Park. Live on Sky Sports.
Right, so the Six Nations now. Steve Borthwick's reign as England head coach began with disappointment on Saturday after his side were beaten by Scotland at Twickenham, who won 3 Calcutta Cups in a row for the first time since 1972. Up next for them, it's Italy on Sunday. James Cole has the latest.
Yes, it's just 1 win in 6 now for England in terms of Calcutta Cups. Steve Borthwick unable to transform their fortunes in just 11 training sessions. Will Greenwood, though, were there positive signs if you're an England fan? Yes, yeah, I'm a positive. We are where we are, I think. And I think Steve Borthwick's come out in the press conferences today and said, I've inherited a team that aren't world class in any department, has highlighted the speed of luck. And in the time he had available to him, it seems he has gone around about fixing a couple of those issues, but the bigger picture is we are there to be taken by good teams. We are unable to put teams away when we get in front, and it needs more time, more work. So, look, I'm always a positive English fan. It's tough times. You said 1 in 6 in the Calcutta Cup. I don't know what the record is. Last 5-6 games that England have played, it's been a pretty lean time for but we hope.
No, sorry about that, guys. my phone always goes off when I'm live. Yeah, so as I was talking about a direct impact, well, let's just say there weren't many people on board that night. A direct impact with an iceberg, would it survive? Well, maybe. If you did a direct impact, obviously, yes, ships looking like they are at the front were designed, as we're looking at the Titanic now, you can see at the front of the ship it is designed to have an impact with an object of some kind. But what we're talking about, the iceberg that hit the Titanic that night, is we're talking about an iceberg that was around about 8 times the size of the Titanic, that weighed thousands and thousands of tons. So it would have went from the front of the ship near where the bridge is, or maybe if you were lucky, not quite as far to the bridge as it could have. Would it have done less damage? Possibly, but we don't know. We can't actually know how much damage it would have done if they went full on with the iceberg. It possibly could have survived, possibly wouldn't have survived. We don't currently know. But it wouldn't have been worth the risk with all people on board that night. It wouldn't have been worth the risk. Murdoch did absolutely the correct thing to do. He tried everything he did to try to avoid the iceberg, and he almost succeeded. He was very close on succeeding. The fact that the speed that they were going, 30 seconds was just not enough time to turn the ship. But what he did after, as he turned the ship, he managed to turn the ship even more after the actual initial impact, to turn the ship away from the iceberg. If he didn't do that, more the ship would have scraped along against the iceberg, and more of the hull would have been damaged, so it wouldn't have lasted that lot as long. So he saved thousands and thousands of lives that night, and all credit to him. He did amazing. Even during the sinking, you got people onto lifeboats, and so on. So he did absolutely amazing that night, and will forever be a legend, a living legend. At that time. The captain didn't die in the way that the film showed. I personally enjoyed the film. I think it was a good film by James Cameron, but maybe there's people who don't like it. But yeah, I really enjoyed the film that came out. It told the story really well, and a really good film. But yeah, in my opinion, I think that they did the right thing, not trying to go full on with the iceberg, full impact, because the size of that iceberg. So I am with the people who say that they shouldn't have done a full impact with the iceberg, because this iceberg was huge. I think they saw it the following day on April 15th, and they saw the red marks from the ship on the iceberg, and apparently this iceberg was massive. Apparently 8 times the size, I've heard, that this iceberg was. So yeah, Murdoch did 100% everything right that night, turning it away from the ship, so it weren't, didn't cause as much damage. And we can see how big the Titanic actually was, even in these images on the game, on Titanic 4D, that you can see. Titanic was massive, brilliantly built, for that time. We're talking in 1912. The technology and things weren't nowhere near as good as they are today, and the Titanic was huge. It was built brilliantly. I'm not exactly sure the theories about the bulkhead snapping and not being strong enough. I can't make a comment on that, because they're just theories videos that I've seen. I don't particularly like talking about theories and things like that things aren't true. So I can't I can't discuss or talk about that. I'll leave that with the experts, and you lot can decide, make up your mind if the bulkheads were strong enough or if they weren't. I currently don't know enough about that to have a discussion about it. But one thing I can talk about is the ship was amazing ship, a beautiful ship, built brilliantly. I just think all the things that come together of the night of the sinking led to the doom of the Titanic. And yes, obviously a lot of officers and captains, they know about mirages that can happen, and things like that. You even get them on, when you're in a car or on a Grand Prix circuit, you see it wet and it looks like it's wet, then you get there and it's not wet. That's a mirage. So you see something that's looks like it's there, but it's actually not there. Now, apparently, with the mirage that night of the Titanic, is they were seeing the horizon, and it weren't actually the horizon they were seeing. They were seeing something that looked like the horizon, and the iceberg and all that lot was actually invisible to their eye. I have seen some videos and stuff that they did see something, but they didn't actually know for sure what it was. If they actually spotted the iceberg when they saw something in the corner of their eye, we wouldn't be talking about the Titanic sunk, the sinking by now, because it wouldn't have happened. They would have had enough time to turn the ship. They almost had enough time to turn the ship. Well, not enough time to turn the ship, but almost turned the ship. I think they had something like 29 seconds of reacting to seeing the iceberg to then the impact of the iceberg. So it was definitely very close. I think if they were going slower, a little bit slower than they actually was, I think they were currently going around about 18 knots when they saw the iceberg. Don't take that for an example. I'm just guessing that's how fast they were going. But even 18 knots is pretty fast. But yeah, I think if they were going slower that night, they would have avoided the iceberg. It is very difficult to, we can all say, oh, they should have done this and they should have done that, but we weren't there, so we can't, we can only think to ourselves, oh, we would have done that different, we would have done that different. But it's actually different from actually being there than us saying, oh, but we would have done this. Yes, it is true that they should have went slower, considering all the lives they had on board, and they had multiply bloody hell, multiply warnings they had that night. They had warnings after warnings after warnings after warnings all day about icebergs. Now, the captain, yes, did try to change the Titanic's course, not knowing that by doing that, they would have been going full on with the iceberg. But that, risks sometimes pay off, sometimes they don't. Unfortunately for the Titanic, it didn't. But yeah, I have no idea. Maybe there is ships that collide with an icebergs in the North Atlantic Ocean. Even to this day, I'm guessing they do. But with the technology much more better now and stuff like that, they know about them a lot sooner than they would have back then. But yeah, I really enjoyed the Titanic. It is my favourite ship by a mile. But I do know about other ships now, thanks to the Titanic. I think Titanic was the ship that brought interest to me. Before that, I don't think I was actually interested in ships, and now I am.
You worry about your family, so they don't have to. But what would happen if you weren't there? With Beagle Street, you can leave a cash lump sum to help support them if you're no longer around. A 30-year-old could get £200,000.
So we'll actually go on to a different camera. We'll go on to that one for now.
To get an online quote, and you could receive a gift card worth up to £150. I'd like a quote, please. Have one less thing to worry about. Visit BeagleStreet.com or call 0800 247 247.
So yes, for me, the Titanic is my favourite ship by far. I would be interested to know in the comments of what is your favourite ships, or if you have a different ship that is your favourite. We have loads. We have the Britannic, we have the Olympic, we have the Titanic, we have the Queen Mary. But there was also a lot of other ships. I think there was the SSS Atlantic. I think the ship that hit a rock, and that was the worst shipping disaster in history. 86 years, I think, before the Titanic. Something around that. Anyway, I haven't done enough research and know about that ship enough to actually talk about it. But I'm pretty sure it was either 86 years or 88 years before the Titanic. Anyway, so it is one of the two. But yeah, for me, my top three most favourite ships is the Titanic, the Queen Mary, and the Olympic. They're my top three favourite ships.
Unprecedented action taken by the Premier League as they charge Manchester City with more than 100 breaches of financial fair play rules.
Now, unfortunately, I can't do the real-time syncing again this year on April 15th. On this one, obviously, this one goes, I think this finishes for, after around about 15-20 minutes on my PC, it finishes after around about half an hour or so. But there is people who do the real live syncing. Be sure to check it out, because I'm for sure going to be, if they're doing the anniversary this year, I will be there. So I'll be, commenting in the comment section, and watching it all the way through like I normally do. Fantastic work they do. They must work all year round making it better. Titanic Honor and Glory, they do have a demo of the server that they actually do, that they're doing. I think it's 401, but I'm not sure. I'd have to check up on that, but they're absolutely brilliant on the work they do. I think there's another one called Titanic Animations that they're on YouTube as well. So that, and he's really good as well. He obviously does a lot of work and things like that. I would potentially like to do that, but someone's already done it. I don't want to be a copycat or copyright or anything like that. I'd like to do it different to what I do. And I know, telling a story about the Titanic and things like that isn't easy if someone else has already done it before. To try to do it differently, because any way you look at it, the story's kind of the same. Or the same if you're telling the story correctly. But I enjoy what I do. I enjoy going onto this game, talking about the Titanic, talking about everything I know. And I'm not saying everything that I talk about I know 100% that it's true or it's happened, or I just try to explain it into the best way I possibly can. And I think this game, this what I play hasn't been out long. So obviously they could bring out updates in the future, and I hope they bring out the real-time syncing, because that would absolutely be fantastic. I'm guessing the one that I stream from my PC, they will. I did a Titanic this year, last year, and I will be doing it again this year in November. I will possibly be doing other stuff, but this YouTube channel, will be getting built up slowly but surely. I will probably end up getting people who comment and things like that. I try to interact with people as much as I possibly can. I do that on Twitter, I do that on PlayStation, I do that on anything that I stream on. I try to comment or reply to people as soon as I possibly can, really. Because so many people around the world know about the Titanic. It's such a famous ship that so many people know about it. It was an absolute fantastic ship of its time. I think it was something like 800 and something feet long. That is absolutely massive. I used to live in a big street I think it was like something like I don't know, 80 yards maybe, and even the Titanic would have been longer than that. So it's absolutely amazing to think to yourself, wow, how big was that ship? And it was massive. So you have big ships today. You have like ferries and luxury liners people can go on. I actually think the Titanic, the ships back then looked better than the ones they do today. I don't particularly like the way the luxury liners look today. Like, they're really big and they got many flaws and things, and they capsize a lot. And it's not surprised with the size of them. I actually prefer the way the Titanic looked and the Olympic and Britannic, the ocean liners are really good. White Star Line they were called, weren't they? So I think all the ships that they did were built well, looked really, really nice. I just think they were very unlucky. The Britannic, was out of anyone's hands of what happened to that. I think the Titanic was just very unlucky. You know, having a night that's pure black, pure dark, having the North Atlantic Ocean calm like it was, with no moon, is virtually unheard of. You sometimes do have a night with no moon, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's no moon. It just means the moon either hasn't risen yet, or is in a shining on a different part on Earth. But it is possible that you can have a night with no moon. Sometimes the moon doesn't appear, so that is true. Me taking so much interest in the world and weather and things like that. The world, how it's warming, and things like that. I take so much interest in all of that. I always have since I was really young, and I still do today. So I take a lot of interests. But one thing I do is I actually pay attention to what's going on either around me or something that I'm actually looking at, like the Titanic and things like that. I don't know everybody's story on the ship that night, but I do know Murdoch's and the captains and things like that, basically.
So that was 2019. What have City had to say today? Well, let's go to the Etihad Stadium, join our reporter Vinny O'Connor, and find out. So, Vinny.
As I've been speaking, it's something I haven't actually ever noticed before, and because I've got the headphones in my ears and I can hear it, I didn't actually realise the game sound you can actually hear. It sounds like the wind is blowing like mad, but I actually think it's the water. But I'm not exactly sure what this is actually. It could either be the water or it could be the wind blowing. I don't know. Well, there you go. We'll actually turn it at the front now. So it's like daylight. I don't know. Depending on whereabouts you are in the world. If you're in the northern hemisphere, near Southampton and things like that, that looking like that would potentially be around about 3:30 in the afternoon. Maybe 20 to 4, depending on what month you are. If you're in December, it would look like that. If you're in a month I'm in, February 6th, it would be later in the day. That would be around about 4:15, 4:30. Yeah, I'm almost 5:10 in the evening now. So for it to look like that out to sea, you're talking around about 4:30, 4:45. With the sun going down and it being like that, basically. Now, I know it had 4 funnels, yes, but not all of them actually worked. I think the first funnel and the third funnel worked. I think the other 2 were for something else. I think the last one was for the electrics and the second funnel was for something else. I'm not exactly 100% positive, but I'm pretty sure that's what I've heard. But obviously not everything from the film was correct. But if you can remember the scene from the film when they're showing the whole entire the ship when Jack's at the front of it, you actually see not all the funnels smoke. So I actually think that possibly could have been real. We obviously know some parts in the film weren't real. The romantic story that was fictional. Jack and Rose, that was fictional. But there was someone called Jack apparently on the Titanic. He was just called Jack something else. Well, he wasn't actually called Jack something, but he was Jack. I just don't know his last name. But I could probably look that up and be able to tell you in more detail next time I go live.
On the second point about the journalists being briefed, again, my understanding is that no journalists were briefed before the statement was published on the Premier League's website. And I'm not 100% sure. I think what happened is that the first people to report it were the Times newspaper website, and that is because somebody on their news desk saw it on the Premier League's website. So I am pretty sure no journalists were.
Now, currently I have built, I'm just trying to remember, I have built 2 Titanic models so far. Now I am building another. I've got one coming that I pay quite a lot of money for, which I will show you guys when it arrives. And the final Titanic ship that I am building isn't for me. It is the second ship that I'm building, gluing together and things like that. That isn't for me. I am doing a Titanic. I'm building that as well sometime in the future, and a Queen Mary. So when I've done them, I will show you guys how they look, and you can, down in the comment section, you can let me know what you think of them. I'm quite relatively new at building models, so I don't expect you guys to say, oh, that looks absolutely fantastic. But I think they look alright. They, you know, I don't actually know how to do rigging when I'm doing a model of a ship, so I can add the, you know, the wires to the funnels and above the ship and all that lot. But I'm pretty sure I will get better as time goes on, because as you can see with this, as Titanic, hang on one second. Yeah, there you go. Now you can see it. The wires above the ship and all that lot. That's for the SOS signals and CQD and things like that, basically.
In the past, especially in England, that has not happened. There has been a real reluctance to get involved with changing results and changing league tables from the past. So if there was to be a points deduction, I think it would be much more likely to be applied in the season where the decision was made that Manchester City were guilty of breaking these rules. Okay, could they be expelled from the league? Again, it's a possibility. If you look at the various options that the independent commission has, they can recommend to the Premier League board that a club are expelled from the league. If that was to happen, basically Manchester City would be relegated. Again, I think that is one of the worst case scenarios. I think it would be.
Well, I am going to be wrapping up this stream in a couple of minutes' time. I do want you guys to know that I will be live, as my scheduled live date was meant to be February 10th. I will be live again on February 10th. Then I will most likely be live again on February 20th, 27th. And then the rest of them will be in March and obviously April 13th, 14th and 15th. And obviously April 15th will be the anniversary day. So yes, I'll be doing a couple more stuff, getting ready for that, and then I will be live, and the live stream on April 14th will be quite a long time, getting towards the time of when it hit the iceberg, chatting about it. It'd be nice to see you guys' comments as well when I'm live doing that. I know not everyone will jump in and on that Pacific time, because otherwise either you'll be sleeping or you'll be watching someone else. But it'd be nice to get you guys comments and anything you currently know about the Titanic and things. Your comments are more than welcome in the chat. But that's going to be it for now, guys. I will be live again soon, but until next time, I am Craig Hawkins, or Titanic Atlantic, and I'll catch you guys again soon. But until next time, I'm out. Goodbye.